Welcome back to another episode of Stacking Dennys. I'm Jordan McAbee of RotoBaller. My co-host Nick Giffen of the Action Network. The All-Star race is in the books from North Wilkesboro, and we're on to the Coca-Cola 600. Kyle Larson put an absolute whooping on the field, dominated this race, both with newer tires than everybody else and with the same tires as everybody else. 49.8% said that it was a good race, and I think this once again showed that the short track package with this car just is not working out. Martinsville a few weeks ago, I know you weren't able to watch that race. I honestly thought Martinsville was worse than North Wilkesboro, but the fact that this was on such a stage, this was made such a big deal of this whole race. A lot of unsatisfied fans, I would say. Finally kind of getting the point that, hey, it doesn't matter if there's tire wear, it doesn't matter anything. This package is not good. And it's unfortunate because, the championship is decided at Phoenix, which is another short flat track. The fact of the matter is with this package in the short tracks, you can't pass. It's all about track position. That's why, not to discredit them, but that's why guys like Bubba Wallace finished second in this race. Tyler Reddick finished third. I don't think Tyler Reddick had a third place car. Bubba might have had a top 5 car based on his practice speeds, but the fact that they had the track position on that final restart is really the only reason that they stayed up there. I mean, we saw Daniel Suarez lead the first part of this race because he started up there. That's just why it happened. But overall, I honestly, I was very disinterested with this race. I watched it, and I was amazed by a lot of people's reactions by it. But I'm curious to hear what you think about, or what you thought about this race, what you thought about North Wilkesboro overall, because we did see some amazing tire fall off, and I think with adjustments, this could be an actual good racetrack. But with this package right now, I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, so I caught only about the last, 8 or so, 10 laps maybe of the All-Star race, because I was at the Vegas Golden Knights hockey game. So only caught like the last 10 minutes, but I did catch the heats, and those were terrible. Those were absolutely awful. So I can't really comment on the All-Star race itself, but it doesn't, from what I've seen on Twitter, it doesn't sound like it was much better than the heats. And it really sucks when a track that has as much tire fall off as North Wilkesboro is that bad, because normally fall off is a lot of fall off is a good thing, because you'll get a lot of passing because teams will have to manage their tires in different ways. But it apparently just didn't happen for All-Star race weekend. So yeah, it doesn't sound good when a fall off track doesn't look good. Now, that said, the truck race was awesome. So it's not the track. It's 100% not the track, because the trucks put on an amazing show. And so, it's something specific about this car on these types of tracks, and it's just not getting the job done. Not good enough. It's just not a good enough product right now that NASCAR has for the Cup Series on these shorter flat tracks. And like you said, championship race can be at Phoenix, and that could be a snoozer. Phoenix will probably be a little better just because it's a bigger track, 1 mile track, and it does have a little extra banking in, I think, one of the turns there, and it's got the dog leg, which always makes it fun. But overall, not a great product on these short flat tracks that we've seen at all this year.
Mm-hmm. We did get some drama in this race, surprisingly not with Ross Chastain. He kind of laid in the back the whole race, was not competitive at all. But Michael McDowell and Ty Gibbs kind of got into it. Michael McDowell tried his hardest to be. I think he was trying to be Ross Chastain, to be honest with you. The more I looked at this situation, the more I went back and watched it. I don't think Ty Gibbs did anything wrong. I think he was racing hard. And if you know me, I don't like Ty Gibbs. I'm not going to sit here and defend him willingly. I honestly think Michael McDowell was driving over his head the entire race. He was the one that was going 4 wide on restarts, and he might have felt slighted a little bit by Ty Gibbs, and he went a little crazy. Like he went back on the track to get Ty Gibbs back, who was the leader and who could have won that race, and that's part of the reason why he didn't, was because of what McDowell did. Now this brings to light another aspect, which I've been bitching about this for a while. How in the world was Michael McDowell maintaining minimum speed with that car? That car could not even run a straight line. and he was like visibly slower than every other car on the track. I don't understand NASCAR's policy with minimum speed, because if that car and that speed is maintaining minimum speed, we have an issue, and that's where we run into issues with these back markers at short tracks, especially. We've seen it at Bristol before. They are just too slow. I really think NASCAR needs to up the minimum speed threshold, especially at these shorter tracks. But yeah, Michael McDowell, he was like, I haven't seen if he said anything since the whole thing, but I thought Ty Gibbs, was very respectful in his interview afterwards. McDowell was talking about like he doesn't have the money to go fight him. Like, come on, what are you doing? Like I said, it's almost like he was trying to be Ross Chastain, and that's just annoying because I like McDowell, but I think he was completely in the wrong with that whole situation.
Yeah, I still haven't looked at it. I've literally only seen about 8 laps of the race. I didn't go back and look at highlights. I didn't want to. Based off what I saw in the heats, I just didn't want to. I had zero interest. Yeah, when I have zero interest in a NASCAR race, I know it's an exhibition. It says enough, because I think I've only missed 1 or 2 races total in the past decade. And one of them I was driving and had a 18-hour drive, and so I couldn't watch the race. And the other one was Martinsville, because I was at Long Beach. And so this is I didn't fully miss this race. Like I said, I caught the last 8 laps, but I had zero interest in rushing back home to watch the All-Star race. So that says enough. As far as the minimum speed thing, I think it can depend on the track. I'm sure NASCAR has some threshold. It's probably some percentage, and at some tracks you may need to. I think they may need to look at adjusting that percentage, because it sounds like it was pretty bad as far as the McDowell situation here at North Wilkesboro.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised he didn't get fined for it. It was that egregious as to what he was doing, and like I said, that was his only thing, or that was his only mindset was getting back Ty Gibbs. But then again, he didn't even wreck him either. Like if you're gonna do that, if you're gonna purposely do something, fucking put him in the wall.
Yeah,
put him in the wall. But yeah, one last thing, like All-Star race is what it is. Didn't count for anything. The only thing that mattered was the winner got $1 million. Kyle Larson ran away with it. Do you think that the fact that it was the All-Star race and the fact that one driver just beat the shit out of everybody is a bad look on NASCAR? Like, this race is hyped up to be the best of the best, it's the All-Star race. And one guy is in a complete league of his own, not even close. And like we talked about this on last week's episode. Kyle Larson's average green flag speed this year is astronomically high compared to everybody else's. Like, he has the best car this year so far, and it's not close, even though he doesn't have the wins or more than 2 wins. But is that kind of a black eye on NASCAR, in addition to a very, very boring race? Because any casual fan watching that race was not interested, I can guarantee that. And I think that reflected in the ratings, as they were down once again. I think they were down even more than normal.
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily a black eye on NASCAR, more so than it's just probably also just a product of this car. And so you couldn't pass. So maybe somebody who was faster than Bubba and or Reddick didn't have a chance to challenge Kyle Larson. It's also maybe just the format of the race itself. I know, last year, for example, at Texas, it was a pretty competitive race. Obviously, the Penske's were superior in that race, but in the early portion of that race, it looked like Kyle Busch or Ross Chastain could be. Remember, Chastain had that big incident where I think Kyle Busch blew a tire and Chastain had nowhere to go and got airborne off of Kyle Busch there. So, it looked like it was shaping up to be a pretty competitive all-star race last year, and it kind of was. And then just to have it this year be just terrible is, I don't think a black eye on the all-star race itself. I think it's just, again, the issue with this car at these types of tracks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Some other controversy, I guess, more shit being said to Bubba Wallace. So I guess some fans got into his radio and said, like, come on, what the hell are we doing?
It's ridiculous.
it probably didn't help that Bubba then flipped off the camera. He said I read somewhere that he was, doing it to one of his friends or something. Yeah. I thought it was funny. Like, to me, a finger doesn't offend me. I mean, no. Why are people getting so offended? I think if it was Chase Elliott or anybody else, that they'd be perfectly fine with it. But the fact that it's Bubba Wallace, now all of a sudden it's a big issue. But yeah, I don't understand people that get offended by the finger. Was it bad timing with everything? Probably, but it is what it is to me.
He also didn't even know about the radio thing though, so it was just bad timing in terms of luck as well, because he hadn't heard the radio comment, so he probably didn't know about the comments on his radio when he did that. So it's just one of those things where it's just unlucky. I mean, it got caught on camera. He was joking with a friend, and it was after this thing was said on the radio, but it all was just kind of like coincidental. And, I mean, there's been plenty of times, plenty of drivers have used the middle finger. So it shouldn't be an issue. If you're making it an issue, you're making an issue for one reason only, and it really shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we've seen Golden Boy Chase Elliott do it on national television as well. So, exactly. If anybody has an issue with it, there's a reason you have an issue with it, and it's pretty clear. But before we go any further, just want to reintroduce our new segment of Stacking Dennys. And I'm not adding to the total, but did Ross Chastain win this week? No, he did not. He has not won in 39 races. It's not 40 because this isn't a points-paying race, but Ross Chastain has not won in 39 races. Just wanted to remind everybody there, all the Ross Chastain fans. He also looked like shit that entire race. But anyway, whine about it.
Figure out. I had a real quick. I know. Just while we're thinking about it in the Ross Chastain, I did have the number 4 car in my random fantasy, which they ended up updating to the 29 car. Kevin Harvick finished 18th, so the dock block was even real for the All-Star race if you're finishing 18th out of 24 cars.
Oh, yeah, especially Kevin Harvick at a short, flat
with tire
high wear track. Like, yeah, dock block well in full effect. But that's going to get straight into Wine About It this week, presented by Luvabella Winery. I'm gonna kick it off here first. I'm gonna go first because I've had a lot to say during the race. I've tweeted a lot, and I've kind of let it marinate since then, and I'm even more irritated. Are people? This is a rhetorical question because the answer is yes. Are people just stupid? We had a track where we saw extreme tire wear. And Kyle Larson, there was an early caution. Kyle Larson pitted, got fresh tires compared to everybody else, 17-lap fresher tires, and he flew through the field. And he ended up, by the competition caution, ended up with about a 10-second lead. I think that's right, somewhere around there. And people were acting like he was God. Like, oh, Kyle Larson's so good. Yes, Kyle Larson is very good, but you are not taking this entire situation in full context. We were seeing like the amount of the difference in tire wear, even over the run, was insane. I think they said over 15 laps, you lost a full second. So Larson now has 17 lap fresher tires than everybody else. So then the comments started coming out of, well, he ran away with it again after the competition caution. And yes, he did. He won by, I want to say 4 seconds, 3.5 seconds. Mm-hmm. That's not a 10-second lead though, like he had in the first point. And that's my point. Like, stop sitting here and not realizing why things are happening, which is going to now segue into my second part of a whine about it, because I complain about NASCAR broadcasts. I complain about the NASCAR media. The way that we grow this sport and the way that NASCAR grows is by attracting the casual fans. That's what's going to grow this sport. In order for that to happen, you need to fully explain why things are shitty and why things are good. So when you have a driver that is about to lap the entire field, if you don't have a competition caution, you need to explain why. And you can't just say he has fresher tires, because To the normal person, if you go up to somebody on the street and you say, "Hey, Kyle Larson's going to lap the field because he has fresher tires," they're not going to know what the hell you're talking about. I have one rule in life when it comes to anything that you're explaining, anything that you're marketing, anything. Dumb it down as simple as possible. Literally as simple as possible. When you think about how dumb the average person is, realize that half the country is even dumber than that. NASCAR is refusing to do that. They're not even trying. These broadcasts are being presented and talked, like the discussion within them is targeted to guys like me and you that have been around this sport for a while. We understand what they're talking about. We know what they're talking about. That's not the target audience. That shouldn't be the target audience. So guess what I'm saying is people really need to start dumbing shit down and making it as simple as possible and not just assuming that people know everything. And I don't think, like, I don't have an easy fix for this, but this was super apparent this weekend that there was a ton of people that did not know what was going on, and it was not being thoroughly explained because there was a lot of dumb people on Twitter, and I was in a good mood during the race. I wasn't even in a bad mood, and I was losing my shit about all these replies I was getting on Twitter because people are just dumb. Like, people, the amount of times that people did not understand that tire wear was making a difference I thought I was in like Bizarro land. I was like, how are people not understanding this at all? It blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. But yeah, that is my whine about it. And that's been on my mind all week.
I hear you. And so for me, I mean, my whine about it is going to kind of tag off yours, just in the fact that, so my whine about it, by the way, I got my shipment in. So I'm going to open the Purple Rain Sangria. So we're going to try the Sangria today. Yeah, I'm super excited. Now, I tend not to love sweet wines, but I do love fruit, and Sangria, of course, is fruit. So I have a good feeling about this.
Get that ASMR.
Get that ASMR. Now I'm splashing it everywhere. All right, get a little nice pour there. Where did I put the cap? There it is. Screw the cap back on. And we'll get a good taste of Sangria here. And that, my friends, is a good Sangria. I love that. That's really good. It is not my favorite wine in the whole world simply because I tend to like darker, bolder, acidic reds. But I do like sangrias because I like the fruity flavors and fruity tones. And this absolutely hits the spot if you're looking for a sangria. So once again, highly recommended. I like it a lot. I think it's very good. So, yep. Another one to check off the list as far as RotoBaller wines. So for my wine about it, it's got to be about the format of that race. You know, I did say some of it was the format, possibly, but some of it was the car. But not so much the format of the race itself. The heats were atrocious. What are we doing putting 10 cars on a 0.625 mile track in an aero package where you can't pass? It was horrible. And they have no incentive to go for anything because it's just a qualifying heat. And so they don't want to wreck their car. They don't want to, anger another driver before the next day's main event even happens. I mean, the format was terrible, at least as far as, the heats I'm concerned, is what I'm concerned with because that's what I watched. I didn't watch the main event other than, like I said, like 8 laps at the end there. But it was horrible. Both heats were terrible. Now, I get a little more of the heats at the Clash because there's 4 heats or whatever, and you've got 9 or 10 cars, but that's a quarter-mile track, right? And you're going to use your bumper a little bit more there. You're less aero-dependent at a quarter-mile track where a lot of it is just mechanical grip, and you can get to the guy's bumper and things like that. But at this track, with this car, On the size of the track, it is. It's not exactly. I mean, it is a short track, but it's not the shortest track we race at. I mean, it's bigger than Martinsville. It's bigger than Bristol in terms of length. It's pretty much the same as Iowa. No, Iowa's 7/8, not 6/8. Sorry, not 5/8. But it's close enough to Richmond in size. It's right in between like the Martinsvilles and the Richmonds. That's big enough that you just can't run 10 cars there and make it entertaining. And for some reason, it's throwback. We're at North Wilkesboro. We're going to throw it back. We raced here 20, 30 years ago, the hype, whatever. Stop trying to be short track type series in terms of, we're going to run these heat races. That's not what NASCAR is. NASCAR's never done that. We didn't run heat races at North Wilkesboro back in the 90s when Jeff Gordon won that last race, the last cup race there at North Wilkes. And I don't know what we're trying to do. We're trying to replicate this like short track feel or whatever that we've never done, at least not in the past, in my lifetime, really. And I'm going on 40, so it doesn't work for me, especially when the race is that bad. The heat races were they were unwatchable. That's what turned me off from the All-Star race. Like, I could have gotten home in time from the Golden Knights game if I wanted to, not hang out at the casino or do this, that, or whatever. If I just wanted to rush home from the game, I could have, and then caught the whole All-Star race. No desire. I had no desire to watch that All-Star race whatsoever after seeing those heat races. And that's the other problem with the heat races. When they're that bad, then they turn people off from watching the main event itself.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Was they had nothing to race for. Like, just set the lineup by the pit crew challenge and run the race. Yeah. They had more not to race for than they did to race. They basically, I can guarantee that most of those drivers went into their heat races and said, why would I potentially tear up my car? Why would I potentially do anything if I could just go out and ride around? Oh, and by the way, I can't pass anyway. So what's the point? Yeah. So yeah, right there with you. And for the viewers at home, if they're paying attention all weekend, you see a shit product on Saturday, you're more likely to, hey, maybe I don't want to watch it on Sunday, or if I got something else come up, I don't need to come watch the race. Which, by the way, I also don't understand. So this was another thing people were bitching about. Fans at the track were leaving early. Do people forget that this was a Sunday night race with no holiday? Why are we running this on Sunday night? Just stupid all around. Stupid. I don't get it.
No, me either. And it was just one of those things where, I mean, I complained a lot on Twitter, and that product was bad. And people were like, I got a comment or two like, why are you complaining so much? Relax, chill out, whatever. And I'm like, this product's terrible. And I'm open to changing my mind about the product. I thought the first half of Darlington was terrible, but it crashes aside and whatever, the actual racing got better as the race went on, as well as drivers ramped up the intensity, etc. And as some different strategies and things like that developed. But there was no saving the heat races. That was just garbage.
100%. One thing we did see though with the heat races was the rain tires come on. So
very interesting.
And I feel like, Hamlin on his podcast, I think basically said, from what we saw, he said that this issue can be fixed with softer tires. He thinks that's fully on Goodyear to bring a softer tire to these short tracks, and it'll fix the problem. Now, I don't know. I can't sit here and debate Denny Hamlin. I don't think that one thing is just going to fix this. But again, like if Goodyear doesn't, and they said they're going to make an adjustment for Loudon, that they're going to. So I guess put that in our minds to remember and see if Loudon's better than what Martinsville and North Wilkes has been, because these, like I said, I think Martinsville. I know you didn't watch it, but I think Martinsville was even worse than North Wilkesboro, and that's saying something.
Yeah, that's saying a lot. So just one of those things. I don't know what the fix is. At least as far as the heats, I know what the fix is. Don't run the heats. But Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things we can try. You can try, narrowing the tires. The problem is the current car isn't set up to be able to run on narrower tires. So with bigger contact patch, so how do you reduce the contact patch? We've talked about potentially grooved tires. We've talked about just much softer tires, so the fall off is even greater. There are some options out there. We'll just have to see what ends up, playing out over the next year. But as it is, current product is not good on these types of tracks.
No, and we just have to accept it for the time being because it is what it is.
And night races probably don't help either because the temperatures just cool down at night, and which reduces the amount of heat and wear and slipping and sliding. So we got to run these races in the heat of the day. That'll make the racing a little bit better as well.
Mm-hmm. And the good thing is, now we're heading off to Charlotte, which is 1.5 miles, which this car is awesome at 1.5 miles. So that's something to get excited about. Unfortunately, NASCAR has shifted their schedule to be less 1.5 miles because fans hated 1.5 miles before this new car. So I guess that's just how things are with NASCAR. But that's going to wrap up Wine About It this week, presented by Luvabella Winery. Make sure you check them out. You can get them shipped directly to your door. I think you save like 10%. Cheap shipping for an entire case delivered directly to you, and they're well priced as well. If you can't find them in stores around you, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, West Virginia, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia. Like I have said, I think we're going to be adding a couple more states there. But yeah, thanks everybody. We've gotten a couple tweets this week about a couple of our followers are trying these wines, and I'm excited to see hear what they think of them because obviously we have our opinions on these and we can be different. Like I'm not a wine guy, but I like these wines. So yeah, exactly. Make sure you check them out. But moving on to Charlotte, Coca-Cola 600. Okay, we got Monaco, we got Indy 500, and we got the Coca-Cola 600. This is a weekend of racing for sure. Let's talk about the first two. You know more about these than I do, so I'm going to let you kind of talk about this. But I do want to touch on the other two races of this Memorial Day weekend before we get into the Coca-Cola 600. So, what are you thinking? Is your boy Kyle Kirkwood going to win the Indy 500?
Honestly, I'm a little worried about the fall off that the Andretti cars showed in qualifying. They had some pretty significant tire fall off, and IndyCar has brought a softer Firestone, get my series mixed up, has brought a softer left side tire to the Indy 500 this year, which is creating more fall off. Very good thing. Tire management will be key, but not in love with the fall off the Andretti cars showed. But Kyle did say his car in the draft in the slipstream is incredible. He said at one point last week, he said he had the car to beat. So he's 30-1. If a guy said at one point in the month of May during the practice and stuff that he has the car to beat, he didn't exactly say it like that, but he said something like, there's no car out there that's better than this. Here's the exact quote. I don't think there's really anyone else out there at the moment that's better than this AutoNation Honda. Exact word for word quote. So he's 30-1 at some books. So if you want to, take a little flyer, I got him 50-1 preseason for the Indy 500. So I have a 50-1 Kyle Kirkwood ticket. I have $200 on that at 50-1. So if he wins, I'll have $10,000. But I'm thinking about dipping some more for 30-1. Even if it's a bad bet, I'm very tempted to bet it just because I love Kyle Kirkwood, obviously. But I wouldn't say he has a non-zero chance. I definitely think he has, a good chance. He's definitely the best Andretti car. He looks great in traffic, super consistent, best car in qualifying of the Andrettis by a good chunk. So, yeah, not impossible. But as far as the Indy 500 goes, I think it is going to be a very interesting race. They've added some new parts and pieces to these cars that teams can add on or take off, and that'll change the downforce. It'll change the drag. Could make for some better passing opportunities, especially towards the front of the field. And then with the extra tire fall off, especially in the heat of the day, it's going to be 81 or so. we could see tire management come into play, and so you could pass maybe in the mid-pack if you're really smart with your tires. So I think it's a race where Will Power thinks you could run closer because you have that added downforce. So if you're able to run closer in the corners with that extra downforce, then that presents the opportunity for more crashes as well. So could be a wild race. Could be a really interesting Indy 500. I'm looking forward to it. Alex Palou absolutely should be the favorite. I bet him 11-1 back in April. I didn't make it public or anything because I like to make my own bets. But we talked about it on the pod.
I was gonna say I'm pretty sure we talked about it. And I was just gonna tell you because I know I bet him because you told me to at 11-1. I also bet Sato
20.
Sato at 20-1, and currently Palou is 6-1 and Sato is 12-1. So
yeah,
I had to give you a little pat on the back there for recommending those bets, a month ago.
Yeah, and then I had a Malukas bet preseason, and that's not looking so hot right now. So not sold on David Malukas. I did take. And a lot of these bets I've been throwing around, I didn't get a chance to post them publicly anywhere or things like that, just because it's been a crazy week for me. But I do have Santino Ferrucci, 75-1. He is now 18 or 20-1 at most books because he put on an amazing performance in qualifying, taking that AJ Foyt car, actually the number 14 car that Kyle drove last year, and he put it fourth in qualifying. And he loves his car in the draft. So Santino Ferrucci, if you want to underdog, he's now 18 or 20-1. I wouldn't bet him probably at those prices, but I was happy to get him at 75-1. And once again, people will be like, "Oh no, you didn't bet him. I have the ticket. I'll show it to you." It's not, whatever, People always act like I don't bet what I say or etc. But I do. I always do. So let's see, and then I think I have Connor Daly at 45-1. I think he's still around 40 or 50-1. I don't mind that. I don't like it as much as I did when I bet it. So I don't mind that, but that's kind of my card right now. But Alex Palou, easily the favorite for the Indy 500. I like I said, identified him back in April. He looked amazing in traffic. He loved his car, and then that continued through all of the month of May, right? So Indy 500 practice is basically 2 weeks long, a little, couple days in there for qualifying. And he's just looked amazing. And Monday, which was the first practice after qualifying, so they're really 100% focused on race setup, he had the best 10-lap average. And I like that because practice times are misleading at Indy. Do not handicap based off practice times, especially off single-lap practice times. Don't handicap based off no-toe practice times because most of the race is going to be running the toe, right? You're going to be behind another car and you're going to be getting a draft. So it's very misleading. But what I do like is 10-lap average smooths some of that noise out. If you get a monstrous toe on one lap, well, then you've gone by the car and all of a sudden you're packed up in the pack. So it blends out the data a little bit. But Palou was number one in 10-lap average. And not really using that, but it's more like an enhancer to everything else. Indy is almost more like horse betting in terms of the Indy 500. You're trying to figure out which horses look good, which horses are acting well. Same thing with IndyCar for the Indy 500. You're trying to figure out which cars look good, which ones behave well in the draft, who is saying what about their car in a positive way. And so, Joseph Newgarden hasn't been happy with this car, and he said it got worse as it got hotter. Well, race day is going to be the hottest of the whole month, possibly. So, mentally, I'm kind of writing off Newgarden unless they really make some changes on Carb Day and figure that out. So, Carb Day is Friday. It's the last day of practice for the Indy 500. So, they have a couple days off now, and they'll practice again Friday, and that's it. They won't touch the cars again from Friday until the race on Sunday. Pato O'Ward in Monday practice. It's the first practice after Indy 500. He said his car was inconsistent on tire to tire, run to run. Very inconsistent. I don't like to hear that when a driver says he's inconsistent. Rinus VeeKay couldn't post any fast practice speeds because they had some kind of mechanical or engine gremlin with that car. And so that worries me a little bit. Oh, I do have a Rinus VeeKay ticket. I forgot. I got him 35-1 when he was looking great on Fast Friday. I'm happy I got it at 35, given he's 12 now, but I don't like him at 12, given what happened, with the mechanical gremlins, etc. So there's some big names, some good cars that I think have struggled a little bit. I don't like their car. So the ones I'm looking at that I do like: Alex Palou, Alexander Rossi, Will Power is very interesting to me. And it looked like he could pass in the draft. Santino Ferrucci, like I said, Kyle Kirkwood. Those are the guys I'm like most interested in. If you want like a really long shot, Ryan Hunter-Reay, 60-1 for Dry Rumble Racing. If you can find top 5 odds on him like you can at Caesars, I really like his top 5. Ryan Hunter-Reay is an Indy 500 winner. He is a IndyCar Series champion, and he looked like he was very sporty in the draft. He could make some passes. So 7-1. I also like his top, and I gave it out on the Running Hot podcast this week for the Indy 500 episode. 30-1 top Chevy. But top 5 gives you a little more wiggle room because you don't have to be the top Chevy. You don't have to win the race. So I like that. I like that top 5 on Ryan Hunter-Reay, 7-1 at Caesars Sportsbook. So there's my Indy 500 preview on this. Monaco, I don't got shit. I haven't been paying attention to Formula 1 this year. I'm gonna watch it, but I don't have shit on it for betting advice or preview.
So who's your Indy 500 pick to win then?
Alex Palou is my pick to win. He's had the best car all month. But like I said, I named a few names that I would not be surprised at all if they won. If I could take Palou, Power, Rossi, Ferrucci, and Kirkwood versus the field, I might do that.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna just go with the other guy I have a bet on, that Takuma Sato.
Sato, yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah,
He's two-time Indy 500 winner in the best equipment in the series, Chip Ganassi Racing and Team Penske. They're the two best teams in the IndyCar Series, and had a bad fast car. He's mentioned a couple times throughout the month of May, though, he wasn't quite happy with the balance. They had some things to improve. In qualifying, he had a little more maybe fall off or things like that than the others. But there is no questioning his heart, his ability at this track. And he's in top tier equipment. And when I'm going to throw Ryan Hunter-Reay into my group of whatever drivers as well versus the field. I'll take that versus the field.
Okay. Well, just to let you know, I will be rooting for Kyle Kirkwood, though. That would also make my day. So.
Oh, fuck yeah. I mean, if Kyle Kirkwood wins, it's going to be the biggest win I've ever watched in motorsports ever for me. Even bigger than the Long Beach that I went to.
Over Paul Menard winning the Brickyard.
I was puking on the toilet that day, so yeah, over Paul Menard winning the Brickyard.
All right. Well, there is your Indy 500 preview for the upcoming Indy 500. But yes, Memorial Day weekend, which means Coca-Cola 600, longest race of the season, Charlotte Motor Speedway, 1.5-mile track, which these tracks have produced the best racing this year. A little note that I just noticed: Goodyear deciding to bring the same tire setup that they used at Darlington a couple weeks ago, which is surprising to me. Does that surprise you at all?
That does surprise me. I was not expecting that. Now, Darlington did have one of the same sides of tires as Vegas, Kansas, etc. Auto Club, but the other side was different. So Charlotte's going to be different on that side than Kansas, than Vegas, etc. So that's a pretty important thing to note right there. And, looking at who was good at Darlington is another thing we can do to help handicap this race. But I don't think Darlington's necessarily like a direct comp. It's more like if you have some tiebreakers or something like that, I wouldn't mind using that. But and that also was Homestead last year, that same tire package. So, you could potentially look at those things. I don't really think, though, I'm going to take in Homestead last year into account any. And Darlington would be like super kind of tiebreakery for me in terms of how I use it to handicap this race. What I'm really using to handicap Charlotte is obviously the 1.5 miles. Obviously, Auto Club, I think, is in play. I think you can use Dover some just because of the air quote intermediate package that we've been running. And same with Darlington. You can use it because of the air quote intermediate package. But I have some very interesting thoughts in this race. I'm going to get a little wild when we talk about drivers I like, bets I like, because I think this is a very unique race. And it's under very unique circumstances. And I think, I think I'm going to be pretty different from a lot of people this week.
Now I'm curious. Obviously, like I said, this is a 600-mile race, and that's definitely going to come into play. And I think that might be one of the aspects that you're hinting at here is this is an endurance race above a lot of things this week. That extra 100 miles is it's noteworthy. Not to mention, we're going from a late afternoon start into the night. So now these cars, these teams have to keep up with the changes of the track. Like there's a lot more that goes into just this Charlotte race than a lot of people realize, because the guys that are good at the beginning might not be good at the end, and vice versa. Although usually the guy that wins this race, or we've seen this race be dominated before, is the one that is able to keep up with the track. Last year, we saw Denny Hamlin, who started on the pole, did not dominate it by any means. He was up there most of the race, but ended up winning it, on that final restart. We've seen, that race, we saw Daniel Suarez run really well. We saw Trackhouse overall run really well, Ross Chastain. But as far as this year, looking at the intermediate tracks this year, it's been Hendrick Motorsports. That's who it's been. Do you think that changes this weekend with the Coca-Cola 600? Do you think Hendrick is still the team to beat, or is it a little bit closer than we probably maybe are thinking?
Both. Hendrick's still the team to beat. JGR, Toyota, still second. But this is the week I'm targeting Team Penske. As far as I don't think they're going to be the best team out there. I don't think they're going to be killing it for the whole race. But this sets up perfectly for them because they've been so bad at these track types so far this year. They've gotten pushed down and down and down the odds board. You can get Joey Logano to win at 25-1. You can get Ryan Blaney at 25-1. I know if you're looking at some states, maybe 22 at the longest, but I think Westgate and Superbook still has 25-1 at the time of this recording. I'm going to take both of those, and here's why. You mentioned this. This race goes into the night. And what do we know about the Fords that changed this year? They got that aerodynamic change on their nose, which had them reduce downforce and reduce drag. That's especially killed them with tire wear tracks because it's given them more tire wear overall. But by the fact that we're going into a night race, temperatures will be cooler. I'm looking at the forecast for Charlotte, and it looks like it's going to get down to the upper 60s potentially by the end of this race. And the humidity in Charlotte, North Carolina, it's a humid area. The humidity is going to be in the 60% range, mid 60s by the end of that race, compared to Vegas, where it's 80 whatever and no humidity. The air density is so thin. You have to think about the molecules, the amount of molecules in a given area. That density is very thin when you have a hot, dry race in Vegas. That is not producing downforce, and that's what the Fords are struggling with. Well, now we're going to a cooler race in a humid environment. That is going to produce the extra downforce they need, and they still have that more aerodynamic nose to reduce that drag. I think this is where they catch up to the pack. I'm not going to say they're the best, but relative to all these other intermediate races this year, I think they can make some noise. Really like Ryan Blaney, actually, because he's been the better of the two Penske's, so the three, I should say. I'm really only considering two. I don't think anybody's considering Austin Cindric. But I think his Cindric could maybe be interesting in certain groups or something like that, or matchups. But really interested in Blaney. Definitely don't mind Logano. And looking at just something like a top 10, Blaney's even money for a top 10 at Caesars. Joey Logano is minus 105 at the Canby books for a top 10. I like those. But look at something like a top 3. Joey Logano, 7-1 at the Canby books. Ryan Blaney, 7-1 at Caesars. And Blaney has had some decent results this year at the intermediate tracks. I think this is a situation where the gap closes. And if Blaney's already running 5th to 7th in some of these races, I think he can run 3rd. Really, really, really like the Fords this week. Plus, you add in 600 miles, an extra 100 miles for shit to hit the fan, or 200 miles for shit to hit the fan compared to the other intermediate races we've had this year. And you add in just the fact that it's a crazy random race like we saw last year. I mean, shit hit the fan everywhere. There will be some interesting results, and so I like the Ford's ability, especially the Team Penske ability to maybe catch up a little bit this week. So I'm even going against my model. This is This is like math. Like I can't math the humidity, the temperature, all that stuff in my model. There's too much to do, too much data scraping, too much of that. But I can mentally handicap that into my betting process. Using our knowledge, using our brain, our knowledge, what I know of aerodynamics, physics. I mean, I studied aerodynamics in grad school. The math behind it, but I did study it. I feel like this is a race where the Fords are going to be better than model outputs give. And it's a total gut call. It's a very educated gut call that I like the Penske's especially this week. I think Ryan Blaney at 7-1, top 3 might be my favorite bet of the week. And I'm about to bet it and move the line, so sorry.
What do you think about a guy like Brad Keselowski, he was very strong at Darlington. He's shown good speed. Yeah. And that's another one. I understand your Penske.
You could apply that to Kes because he's arguably been better than Logano this year at these tracks.
Yep.
Really like that. I'm gonna have to just start smashing Keselowski as well. I'm right there with you. I think you're right on all those. And the other thing about the cooler temperatures at night and stuff, just in general, they lead to lower tire wear because you're not scrubbing the tires as much, you're not slipping and sliding as much, and that's what Penske's struggled, or the Fords have struggled with, especially the Penske's have struggled with as well. So even more reason for them to catch up because it's not going to hurt their tires as bad. So it's just the race where I want to get on them. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm willing to go out on this island and be wrong, but I am going to be on Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, Brad Keselowski this week. Maybe even Austin Cindric in matchups or groups. Possibly Chris Buescher in certain groups or matchups if we can get those. Don't think I'm gonna get on Chase Briscoe anymore, just because he's so bad at the intermediates this year. I know all of us, like me, you, Greg Mathern, etc. We all got that Briscoe versus Austin Dillon matchup, and I independently saw it from all of you guys. I was like, I'm bombing this, so I bombed it for 2.5 units at -125.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I was actually going to bring up Briscoe because he had a good run here at Charlotte last year. He ended up finishing 4th. Him and Harvick had top 4 finishes last year. But there's just if Briscoe shows speed this weekend, I will be very surprised because that car is just off. And we've talked about this before. This package, he's off. I replied to Greg Mathern. Shout out to him for tweeting that line. I wouldn't have noticed it. I honestly, I'm still in my mindset of I don't really care a ton about NASCAR right now. So I didn't even look at betting lines these first couple of days of the week, and I saw that he tweeted that, and I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and bet that. Just roll with it. But I replied to him and I said, honestly, at this point, if you gave me a Rick Ware racing car versus Chase Briscoe, I'd consider it depending what the odds are. Like, that's how bad Briscoe is. But speaking of Rick Ware Racing, our boy Todd Gilliland is losing his ride this week. He will be back in the Rick Ware Racing car he'll be in the 51 for Rick Ware, whereas Zane Smith will be in the 38 that's typically driven by Todd Gilliland. So for those that, for whatever reason, may be betting on Todd Gilliland, if you're betting him for a top 10 this week, definitely if you are playing or thinking about playing him in DFS, remember that he is not in his normal car. He is taking a significant downgrade in equipment this week. So just keep that in mind. Another guy that this week that I know a lot of people are on, and I don't hate it, Ty Gibbs. And again, this was my mindset when I was bringing up the extra 100 miles and this being a very long race. I think it benefits the younger guys because I just think it does. I think they're better with a longer race like that. So I know I've seen some people betting Ty Gibbs outright at 65-1. I don't think I'm going to bet that. But, it's another one of those, if you can get a good line with him top 10, top 5, I could definitely see it happening. I mean, he's in a Gibbs car, and he has shown speed. At Kansas, he was a top 5 car, Like,
Oh yeah.
the kid has speed, and um, I guess I'm on it. I like it.
Yeah. That right there with you. This is going to be such a good race because I think I think those Fords are going to be better. The Toyotas are always good at this track type. Look what they did last year in this race. I mean, they were awesome. And then Daniel Suarez was awesome. Ross Chastain was awesome. Kyle Larson was awesome. Tyler Reddick was awesome in that Chevy. This is going to be a very good race. And it's going to be a coin flip for me between IndyCar and Coca-Cola 600 on which will be the best race of the three. Because we all know it's not going to be Monaco. That's going to be an absolute garbage, unpassable fest. Formula One this year has been abysmal in terms of passing, ability to pass. And I love Formula One, especially when I was younger. I could not miss a race. It was sometimes hard to watch them because we didn't have as much ability to watch different channels, etc. But I didn't miss a Formula One race, and now I don't. I think I've seen part of Australia this year is the only race I've seen. I didn't even watch Miami. I didn't, didn't care. It didn't matter to me. It's right now the interest for me in Formula One is just gone. I'll get interested again if the product gets better. I know a lot of people have gotten interest because of the drama, the TV series drama, whatever it is. That doesn't do it for me. Racing moves the needle for me. The racing product moves the needle for me. I love good freaking fucking racing. I'm not gonna say freaking. I love good fucking racing. I love it. I want to see good racing, and Formula One just isn't doing that. I'll wake up for it. I mean, and I'm on Pacific time, right? So that race is gonna be 5 a.m. for me. Used to be 8 a.m. for me when I lived in the East Coast, but it's 5 in the morning. I'll wake up for it, but I'm not waking up any sooner than I have to. Like normally when I lived in the East Coast and when the product was better, I wake up at like 6:30, 6:45, get a meal prepared, a breakfast prepared, get my coffee going. I'm gonna flip it on in bed. I'm gonna set my alarm for 4:59. Green flag or lights out is 5 o'clock. Turn it on right there, and that'll be it. And probably end up falling asleep halfway through the race anyway.
Yeah, I have no interest. I'll watch the Indy 500, but there's 0% chance I'm turning on Monaco. It's just
you gotta watch
happening.
Kyle Kirkwood win the Indy 500. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
By the way, this will be the 1-year anniversary of you becoming a Denny Hamlin fan.
I know. Yep. I was just thinking about that. Crazy.
We had a good time last year. So for those of you who are newer listeners to the pod this year, Jordan and I flew to North Carolina to hang out with PJ Walsh, who is another Action Network racing mind. And PJ threw a big party to watch Indy and the 600. And so we watched Indy, we watched the 600 and got absolutely destroyed drinking, especially when Denny Hamlin beat Kyle Busch, and you and I had Denny Hamlin and PJ before PJ had Kyle Busch, and straight up pulled the brand once again. I love you, PJ.
Perfect.
But I mean, that was literally the brand right there.
Yeah, I'll always remember that because I was saying Hamlin's going to win this race all week, and then he won the pole, and then he was still at 12-1, and I'm like, he's going to win this race, and then when he actually did, it was awesome. One guy though, that not sure if he's racing, but books have odds on him is Alex Bowman this week. He might be coming back. I'm assuming if all these books are have odds up on him, that I think he's going to be racing. Now, we're recording this on Tuesday night. Typically, that type of stuff drops on Wednesdays, so this could end up being a non-note by the time this podcast published. But we've seen Chase Elliott seemingly struggle quite a bit since coming back from his injury. I think we're going to see the same with Bowman, which sucks because he was super fast before he got hurt. Like he was legitimately one of the top 5 cars in speed before he got hurt. So it'll be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what he does when he gets back and if he comes back this week with the Coke 600. I mean, you break your back and in your first race back is a 600-mile race at Charlotte. That's going to be tough, but
yeah. Yeah, it'll be tough. 600 miles is just a lot, and I think because of the waiver and because of the point situation and everything like that, I don't think there's a rush to get him back. And no pun intended there with get him back. But I don't think there's a rush for Alex Bowman to hop in the car. I think it can wait another week, and everything should be I would think all cylinders go after Charlotte, simply because that's kind of the time frame they gave us. And Chase Elliott hit the early side of that time frame, so I think Alex Bowman could too. And I think it would probably be right after Charlotte. I honestly don't even know what race is next. I'm actually trying to Google the schedule here to see what is after Charlotte, because there's just so much going on. It's Gateway. Yeah, that would be a perfect race for Alex Bowman to return.
Mm-hmm. Looking at, iFantasy Race, we talk about him a lot. Ryan over at iFantasy Race, one of the hardest working guys in this industry.
The hardest working guy in this industry.
Yeah. It's
he's
probably
literally like
close.
rewatching the whole 5.5 hour 600 from last year. Like, guy's a madman. He's an absolute madman.
Yeah.
I love him. He's awesome. Make sure we say it every time, but you have to follow him. He's puts out some incredibly useful information. I check it pretty much every day I'm doing NASCAR work.
Yeah. But, I have right now his 2023 high speed 1.5 mile track average speed rankings. It's Larson, Truex, Bowman, Hamlin, and Bubba Wallace sitting there. Mm-hmm. Fifth fastest this year. Is fifth in speed rankings at Vegas and fourth at Kansas. Could he play spoiler this weekend? He's sitting there at 20 to 1 this week. Not good enough for me to bite, but I wouldn't hate betting maybe top 5. I think I like what Bubba's doing right now, especially, ran really well at Kansas. That's a really good track for him. Obviously ran well at the All-Star race. Like, that team just seems to have it going right now. And also his new teammate, Tyler Reddick, has a really good track record here at Charlotte overall in the I think he's ran 4 races here. Average finish of 9.3. Never finished worse than 14th. He finished 6th last year, which is a career best, led 19 laps. But with that being said, Reddick has not shown the speed this year that we've expected him to get that bump. Could this be the week that he also could surprise, I guess? Maybe not surprise, but be better or get to the level that we've somewhat expected of Reddick this season.
Yeah, I think mentally people tend to think Bubba is, a little lower tier than Tyler Reddick, probably just because of the wins and the hype around a Reddick, the type of driver he is, the W word. But Bubba's been better at similar tracks so far this year. I'm looking at flags. He's top 6 in both Vegas and Kansas, and this is pretty good comp here for those. So, and he's been better than Tyler Reddick at both of those races in flags. And flags, I think, is obviously I'm biased, but I think it's the best metric because it's the one that ends up being the most predictive. It's also looking just at the healthy car laps. It's not looking at, green flag speed can be very misleading depending on when an incident happened or if you got a fresh pair of tires, etc. So flags is adjusting for all those kinds of things. It's adjusting for track position. And I've found it to be the most predictive. So Bubba right now leading Tyler Reddick in flags at the what I would say the 2 most relevant tracks. Let me pull up Auto Club here because I think probably that one went to Reddick, but I'm not 100% sure. I need to look. Let's see. Flags, I have Bubba Wallace ahead of Reddick even at Auto Club. Yeah. So, right now at this track type, and I don't think Auto Club is a great comp for Charlotte at all. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying in general at these intermediate-ish tracks, maybe not quite as steep, although Charlotte's on the steeper side. The point is Bubba Wallace has been better this year at the relevant tracks in speed, and it's not particularly close. 5-6 spots per race basically.
I'm looking at FanDuel just dropped.
Yeah, FanDuel just added top 3 and head-to-heads winning manufacturer, etc. I like the Ford 6-1 or sorry 5-1 winning manufacturer. Just because of what I said, I actually don't think I like it that much.
Hopefully they drop top tens like they normally do while we're recording. But I've seen a lot of people bitching about just overall odds this week as far as garbage. Are you on the train with that there's not much out there this week?
No, I think I mean, I really like this. Dude, this top 3 range for if you shop across the industry, right? If you shop across a bunch of different books, really like the top 3 if you look at Bubba, Blaney, Logano, Suarez, Keselowski. Like that right there, those guys are meaty. They're all, at least, you can find all of them, at least 5.5. And like I said, Keselowski, you can find up to 12. Suarez, you can get 8.5 to 1 for top 3. Joey and Blaney, 7 to 1 each. Like, I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting this week. I think there's some value out there for sure. My model's really high on Ross Chastain as well. Larson, Byron, Chastain. My model's not as high on Logano and Blaney. Like I said, my model's actually not showing value, but my brain is showing value on them. So I really like betting this week. I'm kind of different, I guess, from everybody else.
I think maybe it's from the Darlington race where there was a ton of value, seemingly ton of value everywhere for that race, and now we've gotten back to this week where there's a lot of stuff that's in line, but there's definitely some value out there. And I'm really talking myself right now into a lot of Bubba bets. I really like Bubba this week, just heading into the weekend.
Yeah, I do too. And here's the other thing. I like making my bets probably now because I don't think practice is going to mean a ton with all the changing conditions and 600 miles and just the mayhem. I'm not going to rely on practice times a whole lot. If something's egregious, right? Like if Blaney is out to lunch, sure. But we're not going to know that going into the weekend, so I kind of want to make my bets now. But I also think, books don't react enough to practice. But this is one race where it won't matter because they won't react enough to practice. They'll react to qualifying still, and again, another race where I don't give a shit about qualifying. So I think there's value all through the week. Now, through the weekend, I think there's going to be a lot of value this whole week. And I wouldn't be surprised if I end up firing a lot. And I'm okay with that. There's a few races where I love firing a lot. Indy 500 and Coke 600, simply because it's the Indy 500, Coke 600. I just love firing bets. And so I probably will. I'll probably just fire a lot of bets. May lose them all. May get my ass handed to me like I did last week. And hey, that happens. Or I shouldn't say last week. That was the All-Star race. The race before that, got my ass handed to me. Well, technically, I got my ass handed to me in the All-Star race, too. I didn't win a single bet. But, it is what it is. We all go through cold streaks. I'm definitely going through a cold streak. I think 3 of my last 4 or 4 of my last 6 or something like that have been losing weeks, and some of them been very significant losing weeks. I'm okay with that. I'm still up, 33 units this year in the Cup Series. So totally fine with riding a month and a half cold streak or ballpark, whatever it is. Doesn't bother me. The whole idea is to long run, go up, and you're going to have blips in the road. That's just part of betting. That's variance. And I'm hitting a rough Cup Series variance patch, but made up for it with some other bets and some other series, particularly IndyCar.
Yeah, you've done pretty well in IndyCar this year. I think that's an understatement. I'm browsing books right now here in Ohio. Superbook has Logano and Blaney both at 30.
Yeah, exactly. So they may have moved even longer since I checked Superbook. I can pull up my phone right now because I have it here as well. But I would instantly fire them at 30. Like instantly.
Yeah, because comparatively speaking, they're both at 22 on DraftKings. Short is 18 and 16.
They're 30 here too.
Yeah.
So I'm literally betting them right now. So if you want to keep talking, I'm just gonna pull up my Westgate app and do that.
Yeah, they're also top 3 plus 850. Top 3 there. So.
Plus 850 for a top 3 each?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh my God.
Ty Gibbs is plus 1200 for a top 3. These are very interesting. As far as some of these, another guy that we don't or haven't. I think he's kind of like an afterthought. You mentioned him. I don't even know where I'm going with this, to be honest with you. William Byron, though, 3 wins this year. Obviously, a faster car than, or seemingly is the fastest car he's had since and consistently fast since joining the Cup Series. Best finish here, a fourth at Charlotte, but I really like how he's led. He gets to the front in these races. He's led 4 of the last 5 races here at Charlotte. Driver rating over 103 of the last 4. His odds aren't super long, but I think he's another one of those drivers. I feel like people are still overlooking Byron to a point. Obviously Larson's getting a lot of the attention, as is the JGR cars. Ross Chastain is always fast, but Byron's there 7-1. I'm not going to bet it, but I feel like there's a little bit of value there at 7-1.
Yeah, Byron and Larson I have neck and neck in my model for the outright favorite. So I do like Byron. I like Larson. I like Ross, like I said, and I like so many bets this week. I'm very, very disagreeing with the lack of value this week. I think there's a ton of value out there, and I don't know. I just took them. So actually, you mentioned the top 3. I looked, and we actually don't have top 3 in Nevada for Superbook, which sucks. But I'll be able to make the drive over to Arizona and get some top 3 pretty easily in the morning.
They got Ford at 6-1 too, by the way.
Yeah, they got Ford at 6-1. So yeah, very interesting. I think honestly, I think I don't want Ford 6-1 if I can just grab Joey and Blaney at 30 each. So I took a half unit on each of them at 30-1. So made that live on air during Stacking Dennys. I'm glad you pointed that out because they opened 25 at Westgate, and Westgate is Superbook for people who don't know. It's the Westgate Superbook, and then they expanded to other states as the Superbook brand. But yeah, they opened at 25, and I didn't see they had moved to 30 because earlier today when I checked, they were still 25. So I guess other people got bet down, and they appropriately lengthened other drivers, and these are the drivers they lengthened were Logano and Blaney.
Here's a question for you. Coming off a dominating performance in the All-Star race, we saw in 2021 Kyle Larson start on the pole, win stage 1, which by the way, this weekend's race has 4 stages instead of the normal 3. Mm-hmm. We saw him in 2021 win stage 1, win stage 2, win stage 3, lead 327 of the 400 laps. What do you think the chances are we get another dominating performance like that in this year's Coca-Cola 600? Because I don't want to say it's common, but we've definitely seen it, more than we've seen it at other tracks.
I think the NextGen car changes it all, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I think the NextGen car changes it all. I mean, we haven't really seen super dominating performances at mile and a half in the NextGen period. I can't really think of one. There probably has been one, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. And so what that says to me is more often than not, we don't get super dominant performances. Last year, we sure as hell didn't. I mean, yeah, there were drivers that were really good that led a chunk of laps, but Suarez got shuffled back several times. Kyle Busch was leading at one point and had an issue. Ross Chastain was leading. Kyle Larson was leading. All these people, whole bunch of different people were leading that race. I feel like I remember. Mm-hmm. I think Chase Briscoe was in the mix at the end, which shows the fall off of that freaking team so hard. It's crazy. But I don't think we're gonna see a 312 lap led performance like we've seen a couple times in the Gen 6 era.
Yeah, I'm I'm going back to probably the closest maybe this year was Vegas when Byron led 176 out of 271. I mean,
But even then, he wasn't the best car by the end of that. I mean, it was Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson were both better, and honestly, I think Larson was probably better than Byron. A lot of that, I think he was just kind of playing wingman in the early middle portions of that race because there was no need to press the issue.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just kind of going through this year's races. Chastain led half the race at Auto Club, won the first two stages. So,
yeah, I feel like that's like a little different because it's such a high tire wear track.
Yeah,
but I think it's some of these medium-ish to medium-high tire wear tracks, also smaller, just 1.5 miles instead of 2 miles. I think I don't remember a ton. So. Yeah, like where there was just like crazy dominant. And like you said, there was some where cars have been dominant, but I don't actually think they're necessarily dominant. It was more like circumstance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any other like super long shots that you like? Obviously Austin Dillon has a pretty good record here at Charlotte. He's 22-1 for a top 3.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. I mean, as good as he's been this year, you can't hate Ricky Stenhouse at these tracks.
That's another one. Yeah.
Not for a top 3 or anything, but I think a guy who can get a top 10 for sure.
Mm-hmm. And Charlotte's,
why not? Why not?
I mean, you look at the last. Let's look at the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 races here at Charlotte. You look at Stenhouse's results: 7th, 12th, 4th, 24th, 5th, 10th, 13th, 15th. Like, this has always been a good track for him.
Quietly been a good track for him because it's not one of the ones that jumps out to me when he races here. But you're right. 7th in 2022 last year, 12th as you mentioned the year before. In the COVID year, he had a 24th and a 4th. And those are his results with JTG, right? So a 24th, a 4th, a 12th, and a 7th with this team. That's a 50% top 10 rate, but there's a 12th that's like just outside of the top 10. Whew. Yeah, this is a good track for him.
Yeah, it is. And
he's having the best year, arguably, of his career, definitely with JTG.
And definitely has the most speed. Like, he hasn't had this speed before since they went down to one team, which I think is, we've talked about. I think that's a big part of it. So I'm seeing plus 250 the best for him for a top 10 right now. Yeah. I don't hate that at all.
No, I don't hate that at all either. I mean, that's 30-ish%, something like that. 28.5%. So as long as you think he finishes in the top 10 better than 28.5% of the time, that plus 250 is a good bet then.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's tons of value this week. I just do. I think there's a lot of value this week. And a lot of it is because the favorites are probably too short. Even though I really like Kyle Larson, I really like William Byron, I just think they're too short at like 6-1, 5-1. And then you talk about all of the Joe Gibbs guys that are pretty short as well, right? Like, so Byron you can find at 7, Hamlin you can find at 8, Truex at 9, but I think those are all too short. Chase Elliott at 10, too short. Christopher Bell at 10, probably too short. Reddick at 14, probably too short, especially given the performance he's had this year. So what that does, Harvick at 16 is too short. Not Chastain. Chastain at 10, I don't necessarily think is too short because my model's like right there on Ross.
I disagree.
You think that's too short?
I do.
It's fair.
39 races. 39 races. About to be 40.
But let's look at the relevant races is what we're talking.
Here's an idea.
I don't really care if he lost at a dirt track and in a road course and a super speedway and whatever Atlanta is.
Here's an idea. Instead of let's switch up our picks to win segment and let's make picks that aren't going to win. My pick is Ross Chastain.
God, I'm picking Ross Chastain to win. I've already picked it. I'm picking Ross Chastain to win.
Okay, you can't take it back. I'm marking it down.
No, I'm not taking it back. I'm picking Chastain to win.
Hey, you picked the winner twice this year, so
Yeah. Well, I think you have too, right?
nope.
Oh, just
I had
once.
Kyle Busch at Auto Club, and that's it. I had Larson at Darlington, and we know what happened there.
Oh, dude, that's right. Fuck. Dude,
Yep.
Darlington was the worst, man. Like when we talk about the variance or whatever, I've had like 4 out of 6 bad weeks or something. Man, that was like variance kicking you in the nuts, just straight up kicking the nuts. I absolutely nailed that race, and what can you do? So yeah, it is what it is.
Yep.
I ended up
still
putting
irritated
too much
about it.
stock in. I ended up putting too much stock in practice times for the All-Star race because I knew fall off was going to be a big thing, and it was. Problem is, I didn't think about the fact that you just couldn't fucking pass because practice was before the heat races, so I didn't get to see the fact that it was just literally god awful racing. If I had known it was going to be that fucking bad, I wouldn't have bet the All-Star race at all. So that's on me. Those were. I don't necessarily think all of them are bad bets. Some of them probably were, but I mean, I had a bet on Reddick to win, and he finished third, and he had amazing practice times over the long run. I had Ty Gibbs to win his freaking Open, and of course, we saw what happened there. Just yeah. So I don't think I made the worst bets either, but definitely didn't work out.
Who else haven't we talked about? What about a guy
I
like
really like
Christopher Bell?
Suarez. I really like Suarez this weekend. Christopher Bell's interesting. He's like always there, but he's never like the dominant guy.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Busch. He was really good here last year until he had some issues, and RCR was good here last year, and have been good here at times. One guy we haven't really talked about is Chase Elliott. Like, I don't expect a ton from him. It's weird. He's been like just mediocre this year in terms of like his equipment relative to his equipment.
How much stock are you putting into speed from Kansas? Because that was earlier this month. Another 1.5 miles. Hamlin had the best car of that race.
For me, Charlotte is so different just because of the night race, the length, the different banking, quad oval instead of tri oval. Like I don't put a ton of stock in it. And now we have a tire change as well in terms of the compound on one side of the car. So, I don't want to rely too much on Vegas. I don't want to rely too much on Kansas. I don't want to rely too much on any race. That's why I'm kind of just saying, like, how have you been in intermediates this year? But then I also want to rely on the physics. So this is a race. I think there's a lot of value because I think books might be relying too much on Kansas or Vegas or Darlington or whatever we're seeing, and they probably shouldn't be, So I think that opens up value on all these other guys that didn't dominate Kansas or Vegas or whatever. And it's not to say that some of them can't or won't. I think they'll be good. I certainly, my model thinks Larson and Byron and all these guys and the JGR/2311 guys will be good. Ross, my model really likes. But I think there's just Charlotte is always a unique race. And especially after what we saw last year in the NextGen. And what we've seen in the NextGen this year, I think it's wide open.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. And it goes back again to the length of the race. I mean, you add on these extra 100 miles, it's another
200 miles
pit stops
compared to all of the intermediate races we've done this year.
Yeah. So yeah, you look at Kansas, that was a 400-mile race. This is 50% longer. Like that's more potential times for Denny Hamlin to speed. That's more potential times for Bubba Wallace's team to screw up a pit stop. But on the opposite side, an early speeding penalty, an early pit crew miscue, you have more time to recover from it. So, yeah, there's a lot more variables in these races with it being the length that it is.
Yep.
I'm gonna keep harping on that.
But I'm still picking Ross Chastain.
I wish I could talk you out of that.
I can't wait to win this one.
Yeah. Anybody else you want to talk about?
I know. I think some of these guys, like your McDowells, or not McDowells. Well, yeah, potentially McDowell, but like your Haley, Allmendinger, McDowell, probably have a non-zero chance of finishing in the top 10 because of this race will produce chaos. And I don't mind a 9-1 top 10 on McDowell. I don't mind a 9-1 top 10 on Justin Haley. Honestly, I prefer a 9-1 on Justin Haley than I do 7-1 on Dinger. But I don't hate that either. 15-1 on Corey LaJoie, top 10. I mean, I don't hate these bets. Like, this is going to be a wild race, I think. I don't think it'll be as wild as last year, but I think it'll be a wild race.
Here's one for you, top 10. Harrison Burton. Finished 11th in this race last year.
Mm-hmm.
Finished 15th at Auto Club this year. He's coming off that 6th place finish at Darlington, which is better than where he actually was. But he was a solid top 15 car at Darlington.
And the same tire package now from there.
Yep. I mean, Harrison Burton had a driver rating at Darlington of 82.3, which was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13th best.
Yep.
Not to steal from Garage Guy Chase, but I think Harrison Burton is definitely in play this week.
Yeah. Shout outs to him. I mean, he bet him top 10, and if you're the 13th best car and you bet the guy top 10 at 12-1, I mean that's an incredible bet. So, I think I clapped it last week when we recorded the pod, but that was arguably the bet of the year from. I know you and I have gotten a few, I wouldn't say bad lines, but we've taken advantage of some lines. I think FanDuel meant to post the line they meant to post at the start of the year with the Daytona 500, no 2+ stages. So, I would say that was the bet of the year for sure. But it's up there in terms of Garage Guy chases.
Christopher Bell over Eric Jones at Richmond.
The stage. Yeah, that was the bet of the year. 100%. I agree with you there. 100%. 100%. But you get the point. Like, that was an awesome bet by Garage Guy Chase.
Absolutely.
He got a guy that should have been plus 150 for a top 10 based off how he performed. At 12.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I'm gonna have to sprinkle on Harrison Burton plus 1800 this week for a top 10.
Yeah, dude. There's a lot of good. There's a lot of value this week. I don't know why people are saying there isn't. I just think there is. I think there's a ton of value, and it's because the favorites are over-favored. It's hard to say. Kyle Larson should not be minus 500 for a top 10. But you know what that does? It opens up all that longer shot top 10 value.
One guy that that we haven't talked about, and I honestly forgot he was racing, Jimmy Johnson.
Nah, I've no interest. Legitimately have no interest. I love Jimmy Johnson. I have no interest.
What other race did he run this year?
He ran the road course where he got caught in that like lap 0, like he completed 0 laps, so it was a lap 1 crash and he instantly DNF'd. And then the Daytona 500. That's it. So Coda and then the 500.
Yep. I mean, it might be interesting to see what he'll do, but Legacy Motor Club's been so god awful this year that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, they've been terrible this year.
Oh, I forgot. Stenhouse started 33rd at Kansas. Still finished 12th. I don't know. For some reason, Stenhouse is sticking in my head this week, and so is Bubba Wallace. Like I'm really liking Bubba Wallace this week.
Yeah. No, I don't have any argument against that at all. I really like the Fords to outperform what we think, and I do like Stenhouse, Bubba, and Ross Chastain. And you talked me into Kez and Suarez. I like us. There's so many guys I like this week. Obviously, they can't all finish up front, but I think that's what makes it exciting. Like, it's gonna be a super competitive race.
It's gonna be
one of the most competitive races of the year.
It's gonna be competitive, and it's going to be a lot of changing. Like that's, and I know
there will be coming and going. I don't give a shit who's good in the first stage of this race. I don't give a shit.
And I know historically that's been like, I've typically, I don't account for the change in a lot of my analysis.
Yeah, actually, I think this might be a terrible race to live bet in some ways, because if you're like, oh, this guy's so fast, that's going to change.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't a race I necessarily want to live bet until we get at least into stage 3.
Yeah.
So we can kind of see who's been improving versus unimproving in the race. But even then, it's still going to be chaotic, probably.
Yeah. Anybody else that we missed?
I mean, how can we not talk about BJ McLeod? He's probably going to win, right? No, I don't.
75-1 for a top 10 finish.
There we go. No, Zane Smith's always interesting. He's so incredibly talented, and you give him 600 miles to work on it. It's either going to be, well, he's a rookie, and he obviously fucked up because it was 600 miles, or it was 600 miles gave him a lot of seat time to get better. So which Zane Smith are we going to see? That's the question.
And that car has shown speed this year with Todd Gilliland in it.
Mm-hmm. Sucks for Gilligang, man. I would love to see him have the full 600 miles in that car. But, really like Zane Smith, too. I mean, the kid's so talented. Zane Smith is probably a future championship winner in the Cup Series.
Wow. That's a lot of confidence.
I don't see why not. I mean, who else can you say is better in Truck or Xfinity as far as, like, the future of the young 20s?
Ty Gibbs.
Yep. But is he actually better? Possibly, probably. It's tough to say. Daniel Hemrick? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Ooh.
No, Zane Smith is so incredibly talented. Wouldn't surprise me if he's a future Cup Series winner. Or champion, I should say. Not just winner, champion.
Oh. Excuse me. Anyway, getting to the picks. You already made yours. Ross Chastain for you. As much as that hurts my soul to listen to it. Again, if you missed out earlier, my pick to not win is Ross Chastain. My pick to win the Coca-Cola 600 this year is, I'm going Bubba Wallace. I'm saying it right now. Bubba Wallace wins the Coca-Cola 600.
Send it.
Bubba Wallace.
Send it. I love it. You're in on it. Like you're saying, I'm Bubba Wallace. You've been saying it all day. I'm going Ross. My model really likes Ross Chastain this week. But somehow Random Fantasy is still alive.
I think it's because Elon just lies about everything and doesn't actually do shit that he says he's going to do.
Yeah. So I don't know if you've made yours, but I just made my Random Fantasy pick this week. And it's a good one.
DM of who it was.
It is a good one. It is the 1 year.
This works out very well for me, by the way.
This is the 1 year anniversary since you became a Denny Hamlin fan, and he's dock blocked for this year's 600.
The reason I like that is because I'm always underweight on Denny Hamlin in DFS. Like, there's never a week that I'm overweight on Denny Hamlin.
That makes sense.
So, the fact that he's dock blocked just helps, and I just made mine. I got the 45.
You are rooting for 23-11 this week.
Yeah.
Between your Bubba Wallace pick to win and your Tyler Reddick random fantasy.
I haven't been too awful at random fantasy lately. At Darlington, I had the 15. He finished 36, but before that, 21st, 17th, 12th, 10th.
Yeah.
Saw a little run there.
I just realized I'm rooting for the number 1 this week. Either Denny Hamlin or Ross Chastain. A 1 or a 1-1. Dude, Denny Hamlin's dock blocked in a points-paying race. He's probably like going to jail. I don't know, exploding in a plane crash. I don't know what's going to happen to Denny Hamlin this week.
NASCAR's going to randomly suspend him for saying something on the podcast.
That's what it is. He's gonna get randomly fined 5,000 points and $10 million. So, I'm sorry, Denny Hamlin. I'm a fan of yours for sure, but you're screwed this week, dude. You're screwed.
Also, Denny Hamlin, please unblock me on Twitter. We're friends now.
I know. We are friends now. You've been friends for a year now. Well, almost
Right.
couple days. It'll be a year.
A little bit of a one-sided friendship, but
I mean, Denny Hamlin, he mentioned my work on his podcast. I could probably pull some strings there.
hold up. Remember the guy that was leading the Underdog Cup and by a huge margin?
Mm-hmm.
He's now in third.
That's what happens
After
when you get 2 good races.
5th place run at Darlington, 21st at Kansas, 18th at Dover. Oh.
Yep. Goddamn.
That surprised me because he had
that surprises me too.
Massive lead.
He had a monstrous lead. I mean, remember we did the math on it? He was like a 1 in 300 chance of having that bad of a result or something. It was technically more than 1 in 300, but that was like an estimate. But yeah, he's had a couple good finishes since then.
Especially that 5th at Darlington.
Yeah. Plus getting all those stage points too, because 5th doesn't pay 40 points, so he got some extra stage points there too.
Yep.
With Bubba Wallace,
who's going to win the Coke 600?
Your good friend Skybox NASCAR is 13th in the Underdog Cup.
I was just gonna say something, but I held my tongue.
Yeah. I didn't.
But yeah, you're still 4th in the Influencer Cup. Solid, about 50-point lead over 5th.
Yeah, we extended it from 40 to 50, so that's pretty good. 49.
Got to figure out a way to get you up to 3rd. I don't know if you're going to catch the top 2, but it might be possible to catch 3rd.
Well, we got to make maybe I'll just post it to the Action Network Slack / so we have our company Slack, and then post to the Action Discord and be like, everybody do this just for 1 week. See what happens.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me. I'm just looking at...
I bet I could get on the podium. I bet I could get on the podium if we make a real push for it.
I kind of want to see it happen. One more thing about this race. We should see some red, white, and blue themed paint schemes. I'm looking at Eric Almirola's right now, and that's a badass looking car. Smithfield. Yeah. It's got a black hood, but then it's got red, white, and blue all over it. Oh man, I really like how this car looks.
Santino Ferrucci in IndyCar is going to have a very American flag car as well. Oh, FanDuel posted top 10s.
Ooh.
Not as good as some of the things we've seen.
Can someone please develop an app or something that notifies
alerts us? Yeah.
Yes.
Whoa!
I would pay money
hold
for
on.
that.
So, hold on. Do you have FanDuel's top 10s open?
I'm doing it right now.
Look at who is plus 380.
BJ McLeod.
What the fuck? Can I get a no price on that?
Please?
Can I get a no price on that?
Wow.
What the shit? I need a no price on that.
I'll tell you what, though. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. plus 300.
Yeah, that's even better than what we were talking about. Some of the other books, 250. Austin Dillon's 3-1. What the fuck? Like, I know they haven't been amazing this year, but this is not a bad track for him. I don't know, man. I'm just gonna bet.
I like that.
I'm just gonna bet BJ McLeod plus 380 for the hell. No, I'm just kidding. Do not do that.
I wonder how that. Like, how does that happen?
How do you price BJ McLeod plus 3? Like, you're getting hiccups and burps from this excitement, and probably a whole bottle of wine, but crazy. Keselowski's plus 160. He's plus 140 longest anywhere else I saw. So that's pretty good. I like that. I like that 160.
I like that as well.
Dude, there's value this week, man. I don't know what people are saying. There isn't value this week. There's value this week. This is such a good race to bet too, with all the mayhem that we saw last year. I cannot believe BJ McLeod is plus 380.
Wild. All right, I don't got anything else. You got anything else?
No, I don't.
Go Bubba Wallace.
Give me a no price, please, on BJ McLeod. Go Kyle Kirkwood.
Yes.
That's all I got.
Perfect race weekend. Kyle Kirkwood, Bubba Wallace.
That would be
wins.
awesome. I fully support that. And Stephen Malazzi getting Outback sponsor announcement.
Yes. That's a nice hat, by the way.
It is. I love it. I got the shirt. I got 2 different shirts. I got a whole bunch of koozies. Got some stickers. So I got Malazzi decked out. I don't have my Malazzi shoes yet, like I do with Kyle Kirkwood. But I'll have to custom some Malazzi shoes in that beautiful. Well, the hat doesn't show it, but the beautiful purple, the deep purple scheme that he had. I mean, that's paint scheme of the year right there.
I agree 100%. 100%.
Exactly.
But good luck to everybody this week with Coca-Cola 600. Enjoy Memorial Day weekend. Weekend full of racing, or if you're not watching the races, whatever you're doing, this is always a good weekend. And then next week we'll be talking about Gateway. Fun. But yeah, enjoy the race weekend. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your holiday. And we will talk to you next week on the next episode of Stacking Dennys.
Dude, enjoy the best racing weekend of the whole year, everybody.
Yep, absolutely. Enjoy it. Good luck. See you.